Hi everyone, my name is Andrew Centofonte. I am the head brewer here at North American Sake Brewery, and today we're going to take you through our process of making Koji. Some people say we have a very traditional way of making Koji. I know that it's a very hands-on way of making Koji for sure, but this process is something I really love. I think it influences the final product so much, and I think it's important to kind of put your effort into making great Koji. So let me show you how we do it here. All right, so let's jump in. First thing we do to get ready for Koji is to wash rice so that we can then steam. So today we're actually going to be washing around 80 kilos of rice. That's the amount of Koji we're going to be making today. And it starts really simply in that we weigh out 10 kilo bags of our rice. These are just pretty standard laundry bags. This gives us the ability to wash a little bit more rice by hand. If you want to come on over, the rice we're using today is called Somai or Jupiter. It's grown down in Arkansas at Isbell Farms. This is milled to 70%. We'll wash it, we'll soak it for about 24 minutes total, and then we're gonna let it drain overnight. So this is our rice washing setup. Again, we do this all by hand, but we break it off into smaller kind of pieces to make it a little bit easier. So like I said, we've got 8 bags of 10 kilos each for 80 kilos total. And then I've got my different stations set up here. And so this is my washing station. This is my rinsing station. It's hard to see. And then these are my soaking stations. So you can see I've got 8 different buckets here that will allow me to soak. And the basic flow is going to be, I'm going to wash the rice for about 2 minutes by hand. We're going to rinse it for about a minute, and then we'll put it into the first bucket here. And then we'll go on to the next one, and we'll naturally start to fill up these different buckets. And then, based on the timing, we'll then pull different ones once they've reached their full 24 minutes. So let's see this in action. We've got all the rice washed now. We're going to let it drain overnight, and then tomorrow morning we will steam this rice. What's up, y'all? It's next morning now. These have been draining overnight. We're going to get them prepped and ready on our table, where we will steam them by letting the steam rise up through the rice so they're nice and gelatinized and ready for the Koji to grow on. Now the rice is cooling. We'll leave it to cool out here in the brewery until this afternoon. Really, because we don't want to introduce that much heat and that much moisture into the Koji room. So we're going to let this cool down a bit, and then it'll go into the room. All right, so it's been cooling in the brewery for a little while now, and we have been periodically breaking it up. And the goal of this is, again, to cool the rice, but also to dry it down a little bit, to kind of remove any clumps that are out there. We're trying to get a drier kind of outer core, or outer layer of the rice. Okay, the rice is nice and cool, and now we're going to get it into the Koji room where I'll let it sit for a few hours to kind of acclimate to the room and continue drying a little bit. But we will get it in the room and we'll come back later tonight, and that's when we'll apply the spore. Alright, we're in the Koji room. We're going to really get into the making of the Koji now. You know, it's been in here for a few hours now, acclimating to temperature, continuing to dry out a little bit. And what we'll do is we'll measure out the spore and we'll start to spread it around. We'll do this several times. We'll sprinkle the spore, we'll mix, we'll sprinkle the spore, we'll mix, and we'll do that a few times to really get a good coating and make sure that every grain has some of that Koji kin on it. And then after that, we will start the piling process. So let's start spreading it out. Okay, so now the spore is spread, it is mixed, and now we enter the first kind of stage of Koji making, which is about keeping it warm and together. And this helps to get a foothold, help the Koji get going. And so for this, what we do is something called piling. So we'll take all this Koji, we'll make a big old pile, I like to call it Koji Mountain, and then we will wrap it in various different cloths to again keep it close and warm together to kind of get the momentum going of the growth. All right, we got Koji Mountain. Now it's time to wrap it up. Whew. All right, Koji's wrapped up. It's ready to go to sleep. It's going to stay here in this room for about 24 hours. We'll come back and check on this tomorrow. All right, it's been about 24 hours now. And one of my key indicators here is the temperature inside of this is now risen above what the room is set to. And that's how I know that the Koji is really starting to grow, because the heat is actually overcome and is greater than the room itself. So we're going to break this open now. It's going to be a lot drier than it was even last night, and a little bit more clumpy, so we're going to break that all apart. And then we're going to separate it out into each of these individual boxes. And these boxes just help give me a little bit more control. Helps me be able to mitigate temperature and humidity a little bit better on smaller scales versus, you know, a big pile like this one. So let's break it open. This is actually one of my favorite parts, and you break open the Koji right now because the aroma kind of hits you right in the face. So let's do it. you can really start to get that aroma right now, which is lovely. And then, like I said, you can see it's a little bit harder and, clumpier. Got these big chunks that you want to start to break apart, because part of breaking it apart is trying to get the koji to not grow outwards and around itself, but really to dive a little bit deeper. So it's good to break it up, and we'll be breaking this up throughout the next day or so. So we transferred all of the rice from the table to our different boxes, and for tonight we covered them with a sheet, still trying to keep them a little bit warm, keep a little bit of that moisture in there, and we'll check on this in about 8 to 10 hours. And then throughout the next part of the process, we are constantly checking temperature to see that growth curve, and we'll do slight adjustments depending on what that tells us. So whether that means to remove the cloth, to put slats underneath the boxes, to change the temperature of the room, to put on a fan, to put on a humidifier, a dehumidifier, all these little tweaks that we can then do to kind of guide the koji in the direction that we want it to go. All right, so we're about 34 hours in right now, and the temperature has risen up to about 38 Celsius, which means we've got a really nice growth going. So now it's all about removing heat and humidity to help that koji dive deeper into the grain. And we're gonna try to hold it close to 43°C as it kind of raises without going over for the next period of time until it's done. So our temperatures are continuing to rise, and I'm trying to actually now bring them back down again. So I'm going to go ahead and put these little wooden slats just right underneath, and that just creates a little bit of airflow to kind of let the rice continue to dry out a little bit and cool a little bit better. So we'll put the slats under, and then we'll continue to mix to kind of release that heat. Alright, so we've been watching the koji throughout the night. Temperatures have been hanging out around the 42, 43 degree mark. It's been about 54 hours. It's 3 in the morning right now. But the koji is done at this point. It's in a good spot. I don't want it to go all the way to Spore. We're going to take it out of the boxes. I'll spread it out, and I like to draw patterns in to help kind of increase surface area, to help release some of that heat, but also it's really beautiful. And it's a fun thing to do. So we'll get them out of these boxes onto the table, and then it'll go out into the main brewery where it will cool overnight until tomorrow, when we will get it ready to use. So I hope you guys enjoyed coming along this journey with me to see how I make Koji here at North American Sake Brewery. As you can tell, it's a labor-intensive process, but it's a process of passion, it's a process of love, and really putting your efforts and energy into making good Koji. You know, it makes all the late nights worth it when you see the results in your sake. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and kanpai!